Bay in the NFC Championship game a couple years ago. That Hail Mary pass from Russell Wilson in overtime, and then we had them on a Monday night game a few years ago with the Fail Mary, where it looks like we couldn't tell if it was an interception or a touchdown
I do remember that.
on that game. So, I mean, they've had some pretty good games in recent history, so I think they'll play again in the playoffs potentially.
Wow, I didn't recognize. They kind of got a good little rivalry going on right now.
They do. They do.
Now we have to hit up Monday night to end week 1. Saints Vikings, which I called. I called the Vikings coming out 29-19. And I have to give a shout out to Sam Bradford because he was a Ram, even though he didn't play as great as a Ram. Mm-hmm. But now he's coming into his own persona, his own person now. 346 passing yards with 3 touchdowns. And even though Drew Brees had a good game, had 291 passing yards and 1 touchdown, Dalvin Cook, the rookie, had 22 receptions for 127 yards. I just thought this was kind of a good game. Yeah, that's a
good opening game for him. He's kind of the passing of the torch to kind of moving on from Adrian Peterson, who is now with the Saints. Really didn't.
He didn't.
To me, I know it's just 1 week, and I don't want to overreact, but he really. I don't think he's going to fit in well with what New Orleans is doing.
I mean, honestly, the way I kind of look at it is the Vikings know his game plan.
They do. That could be.
So if anybody's going to be able to stop him, the Vikings should be able to, in which they did, this past Monday. So,
but they showed a clip where he's on the sideline and Sean Payton, their coach, is walking past and he's like looking at him, and I'm like, I don't know, maybe it's just the first game, maybe the verdict's not out yet on this, but I just don't feel he's gonna fit in because the Saints are more of a passing-oriented team. And then you saw they used a little bit of Ingram and the Kamara, I think that's his name. So I don't really know, how he's going to play into that role. But they need to try to at least keep him happy, because you did all that to get him. And so hopefully you can use him to your advantage.
Definitely. And the last game, we both lost on this one. Broncos beating the Chargers 24-21.
This was actually a good game. I don't know if you stayed up to watch the finale of it, but it was a very crazy ending to this game. San Diego came storming back in this game. They got 2 touchdowns late. Trevor Siemian played well to start the first half, but then it's like the late stages of this game that Denver started unraveling a little bit, and that's what allowed San Diego to come back. And it came down to a field goal kick. Now I'm gonna ask you a question. What your opinion is of this? The kicker, rookie kicker, first time coming out kicking a professional field goal in the NFL. So he kicks it and makes the first one, but they always do this icing of the kicker calling a timeout, and then obviously it comes back out and the second one is blocked. So do you agree with them being able to call a timeout to try to freeze the kicker? What do you think about it?
I don't know how I feel about it, man. I guess now it's happened so long, I'm used to it. But I do feel like it's kind of it's like a trickery kind of thing. Like, you should be able to play with the time like that, I guess, in my mind. Because, like you said, if your defense is going to be able to stop them, they should be able to stop them on first try. Because it's not like you do that for a touchdown drive. Like, if it was 4th and goal and they were about to try and run it, you don't call timeout to ice the play to start over. So why do we do that for the kicker? I think that actually puts a lot more pressure on the kicker as needed, which I guess that's what the purpose of it is. But I feel like it's kind of a disadvantage altogether, and it's just more trickery than actual play. Like, it's not really a defensive performance right there. That's just somebody trying to manipulate the clock.
Because anything can go wrong with a kick. It could be a bad snap. He could hook it. The timing could be off. But I just think that timeout makes them think about it a little longer. And then a lot of people look at, well, that's all the kicker has to do. He has one job.
Right.
So, he should be, given the fact of how the game plays out and it comes down to that situation, that's a lot of pressure to be in unless you're Adam Vinatieri, who can make them at any given time to win Super Bowls and stuff. But that's a story for another day. I just feel like, that could be something that kind of throws their concentration off.
Definitely.
And it works. I've seen a lot of times where it works, and sometimes that could be the difference of winning.
It definitely works. It definitely works, but I don't know, man. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. I really don't. I mean, they did pull it off. I mean, I guess the defense needed they needed that timeout just as much as the kicker didn't need that timeout. So
True.
So I guess in a sense it does kind of play on to the game, but then at the same time I feel like if you're good enough to stop it, do it on the first try. So
True.
But either way, that's the rules, whether I like it or not.
And also, I meant to hit that in that Minnesota-New Orleans game. They did enshrine Randy Moss into their Vikings Ring of Honor.
Oh, they did?
So did Adrian Peterson. So they got inducted into that.
Awesome.
And that's a big thing for the Minnesota fan base there. But overall, week one, it was a rough week for me. I think you can tell me if I'm right or wrong. I calculated I went 5-10, right?
Yep. I just counted up the score.
And you went 12-3.
12-3, man.
So you got a 7-game league on me right now. So
yes,
I gotta
sir.
make a come. I'm starting out in a big hole.
Yep.
Week one is always tricky, though.
That's true.
It's always tricky, but I got to give it to you, man. You picked a lot of good games there, man. So hopefully you can continue on.
Let's see what happens, man.
A lot can change.
I feel like if I can go this season without getting into double digits, which I'm pretty sure it's not going to happen, my double digit losses.
Oh, it's going to happen. Over 16 weeks,
definitely going to happen. But if somehow I don't, me and ESPN need to have a talk. Definitely.
Yeah, you need to start playing the little streak game they got going on ESPN right now. See how many you can pick right. I'll show it to you on the app.
Oh, please do.
Because, I mean, that would have been a great week for you. But, I mean, 12-3.
Yeah.
That is a great way to start the year. I had a rough one. New England let me down. Hopefully we can bounce back. I thought Seattle would pull it out for me. Cincinnati let me down, Arizona. So it's just a lot of things that just didn't go my way week one. But
all right.
To quote Craig's father on Friday, you live to fight another day, son. So I'm going to come back week two.
That's true. All right, we're going to go ahead and cancel this. We're going to stop right here, give a little break. When we come back, we're going to recap on college football. Once again, we are Sports Moods. 2 Moodies.
1 duty.
Sports. We'll be right back.
All right, guys, we are back with Sports Moods, 2 Moodies.
1 duty.
Sports. So right now we've already recapped week 1 of the NFL. If you missed it, CJ will give you guys some timestamps after we're done with our podcast to go back and listen at certain parts of the podcast that you want to hear. But right now we're going to go ahead and get into college football week 2 action. Had some really good games in week 2. We're definitely going to let you know what the new top 10 looks like this week. But the big thing we want to go ahead and jump into was the big matchup of the week, and that was number 5, Oklahoma, going on the road to face Ohio State in the Horseshoe. And these two teams played last year, where Ohio State went to Oklahoma Stadium and pretty much put a beat down on them. Whew. And Mr. Baker Mayfield kept that in mind and drove Oklahoma into Columbus, and they got that win 31-16. Baker Mayfield, I think, had 3 touchdowns in that game?
3 touchdowns, 386 yards off of 27 out of 35 passings.
Yeah, he had a huge performance. The game was tied at halftime. And this is where one of the things I was wrong on with the college pick. I did thought Ohio State would win at home, but Oklahoma had other plans. the game was tied at half, and in the second half, this is what stood out to me about Baker Mayfield. He elevated his level of play. He was 16 out of 17 in the second half alone on completion percentage. Wow. 228 yards and 3 touchdowns, all in that second half versus that Ohio State defense.
Man.
He kept in mind that, hey, last year Ohio State, when they beat us, they celebrated on our field. So he returned the favor this year after that win, taking a lap around their stadium with the OU flag and stuck it smack dab in the middle of the middle of the field there at the end of that game. CJ, tell me what you think about that. Like,
let me tell you, man. Now, I did hear him respond to it, apologizing, saying he was just.
I wouldn't have apologized.
Yeah, I felt like like you said, what Ohio State did to them last year. That was their kind of revenge game. So, but I feel like he needed to because I guess trying to be on the sake of sportsmanship, that was highly disrespectful. Like, I feel like if anybody was to come to Marion, if Dillon came to Marion, even though we know Dillon's the top tier team in our area, if they were to come to us and put all their Dillon flags in the middle of the thing, we would be irate. Like, so
but my thing is sports, though.
It is.
The same thing make you laugh, make you cry sometimes.
That's true. That's definitely
last
true.
year they didn't feel that way when they was prancing and dancing around their stadium. So now this year, it's a different year, different ending. So.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, I kind of, as disrespectful as I believe it is, I like it because of their competitiveness. Like, their little rivalry. I wouldn't say it a rivalry, but their back and forth they've had going on. So they do have kind of a blood feud right now in sports, in college football. So I thought it was good because it was for his team. Like, that was just to show that, they took over. They won that game.
They did.
They came and beat Ohio State. So, I mean, it's not like they didn't. Like, I can see if they lost and they put it in Ohio State. That would be, like, really more personal disrespect. But this was like, hey, we won. We're the champs tonight in this stadium. So this is our town right now. So,
and then this is going to be a big thing that the selection committee is going to look back on later in the year when they're trying to determine the 4 teams that's going to go. This win could very well help Oklahoma, depending on how the rest of their season goes. It's still early for that. And then also, too, this is a great start for them because their coach is only 34 years old.
Really?
Lincoln Riley. This is his first year with this team. I mean, he's not as their head coach. He's been a part of their staff. But when Bob Stoops stepped down last year, he was the guy they entrusted this program with. And to get that caliber of a win in just your first 2 games as their coach, being the youngest head coach in college football right now, that was huge to do that. Not many people can go into Ohio State, into that environment, and coach their team to a victory. So, I mean, that's huge on his part.
Definitely. I agree with you right there. Ohio State is one of the well-known top-tier teams, so for them to come and get that win, definitely.
I think what Ohio State needs to focus on now, I mean, it's still early, so my thing is if you go ahead and lose early, you have a better chance to salvage your season as it goes forward.
Yeah.
I think right now for them to get into the playoffs, which they're one of my 4 that I picked, to make it, Ohio State needs to win out. They need to win the rest of their games to get there because it's going to be hard for a 2-loss team to try to get into that Final 4.
True.
They need to win out. They need to win the Big Ten regular season championship, which means they would have to beat the likes of Michigan and Penn State, which are going to be 2 tough games for them this year. And then they need to win the Big Ten championship game after the season to make the playoff. That's an uphill battle for them.
Yeah,
it's not something that's not achievable, but it's just going to continue to get harder for them as they progress through the rest of the season. Now, JT Barrett continues to be up and down. They need to find a rhythm with him. To me, he just looks he doesn't look like himself to me. I don't know exactly what's going on, but this is the last year for him, I think. I mean, you got a lot of NFL scouts and stuff looking at you.
Definitely.
You need to be trying to put yourself out there. I'm not saying, like, try to do everything where you hurt your team more than you help them, but it's right now this is his opportunity, and he's not looking like a top draft pick right now to me. as far as the NFL draft will go for him next year. So
he could already have a team set. He just might be comforted now.
Could be.
I mean, I don't know how the process goes with scouts and, you know, guaranteeing somebody a place in the NFL, but